And we are now streaming live on Facebook. GallantFew Leader Chats, week number 3, Groundhog Day number 15, 21. I've lost total count.
Lost count.
Bryce Mahoney is here with me, and we are welcoming Brett and Mary Elaine Baker today from Patriot Advantage. Guys, welcome.
Thank you.
I am going to, while Bryce kind of get you guys introduced, I'm going to go get into the Facebook page so we know if we have anybody asking any questions. I can read.
There we go. Yeah. We're just for anybody that's going to be watching, we're going to be really focusing on how they came up with this idea and where they saw the gaps in the community and in the industry. So if you have questions about Patriot Advantage or their services, just drop those in the Facebook comments. We are about 10 seconds behind, so just bear with us. We'll circle back to them. So yeah, again, Mary Elaine, Brett, thank you for joining us. You guys, Brett, you're a 175 veteran. And now you've created this awesome organization called Patriot Advantage. I just want to let you guys first, Brett, give us a little background for you other than, what I said, and how you guys met, and then how you came up with Patriot Advantage, please.
Yeah, so I spent 13 years here in Savannah at 1st Ranger Battalion, and Mary Elaine and I met about 11 years ago. Downtown, no crazy romantic story.
That's a lie.
Well, it ain't
not entirely true if I remember right.
It's not romantic, but
we have another video for that. But,
so it's just a family show, so we're not.
So we did quite a few deployments together, and towards the end of that 13 years that I spent there, Mary Elaine and the family just got very burnt out. And during this, kind of period of tracer burnout, we found an opportunity for Mary Elaine to possibly stop teaching and work remotely if she wanted to. And that opportunity kind of sprang this whole thing that we have built today. And it was all based off of us deciding to take that opportunity for her to leave teaching. And we found great success with that, not only from a business standpoint, but working remotely did tremendous amounts of positivity for our family. And the stresses that we were under were a little less stressful, and it brought us some work-life balance as much as possible, considering that I was still in the military. And that's kind of what led us to where we are. And I'll let you talk more about that transition.
Do you think part of reducing the stress was having a sense of control over what's going on with you?
Yeah, there is just the freedom to be able to take off days whenever I needed to or wanted to. My schedule is completely built around what I needed to happen. So I know, everyone here is familiar with the Army just doing whatever they want and giving random 4-day weekends, or you're going to have weeks of working straight, or you're out in the field. And so having that flexibility to be available whenever he was off was a huge relief for us. And then we have little kids. We have a 9-year-old daughter, and we have a 5-year-old son who was even that much younger, those years ago. And kids get sick, they're needy, they need mom. And when he was deployed all the time, I was literally the only option for months at a time. So having the ability to just work from home and be present for my kids was a huge deal.
And I think people don't really appreciate that is, if it was midnight and our kid got sick, there was no question about who had to stay home from work. It wasn't even something we talked about. It was not an option. So these little emergencies became kind of big fires. And now those little speed bumps in the road are just speed bumps. Maybe we don't have as much productivity for one day because the kids are home, but it's not calling people in the middle of the night, trying to get a substitute for her class or trying to find someone to watch our kids. And right now is the perfect example, because it doesn't matter. Even if you have the support, you can't bring them into your household right now.
Yeah, there's no help. There's no other lifeline.
That's it.
But I think, Bryce, you talked about that transition from working in a normal, 9 to 5 to working remotely, which most of the country is being forced to do right now. And It wasn't like overnight I got used to it. It took me a few months for me to acclimate to working remotely. So I just want to say for everyone who is who's listening right now and is having to work remotely for the first time ever, give yourself some grace. It's going to be very uncomfortable for a good while, especially if you're balancing family and homeschooling and working from home.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard. There's no way around it. You're going to have to just allow yourself to go through that transition, because it is a transition. It's not going to happen overnight.
So you went from working as a teacher to straight into, I think I can be a virtual assistant online for this bigger company, right? This is the kind of stage we're at. Like, you're thinking singular at this point. You're not thinking, wow, with all these spouses and all these people out, these wives and spouses that are basically on, short strings and short leashes because of their husbands, are looking for things to do. Like, right. That idea wasn't even in your head yet, right? We're still like, how do I make this work for us and our family? And I think that's really cool that you were, first you kind of innovated it for yourself. You guys figured it out. And then now the light bulb pops like, oh crap, what can we do even further with this? So please continue.
Jeff Dean says hi, by the way.
What's up, Dean?
Yeah, of course, it was for our family first that we made this change. And after, I guess a couple months, whenever I did feel more acclimated and figured out, one, I can do this. Two, I'm actually enjoying it. I'm finding fulfillment. And three, it changed our lives. That's when we realized there's so many people in the exact same position that we are in that can be impacted the same way. So that's when, the wheels started turning on, okay, well, how do we replicate this? How do we build this infrastructure? And the success I was having with all of my clients, I was soon working up to full-time hours, juggling multiple clients, it was great. So we just got to work building the kind of the framework for success based on the success I had, and building that on how that's going to look on a larger scale. And we started with friends. The first phone call I made of, hey, I just built this thing. I just technically filed, we're an LLC. We're legit now. I called one of my best friends and said, hey, I have an idea. I have something for you. Do you want to try this with me? And she said, absolutely. And she was a ranger wife as well. So that's how it all started.
That's very cool. So Brett, I want to ask you, was it both of you kind of had this epiphany together? Or Mary Elaine, did you come to him and say, hey, I think we can build this into something? Like, Brett, I feel like you're full on ranger at this moment. So is this kind of like out of the blue and you're like, whoa, I don't know, I know a lot of spouses that have businesses, and some are great ideas, some not so much. And, I think it could work both ways, but how did you feel initially about this idea?
I think the very first night we sat down with a friend who was doing this type of work and introduced us to us, I remember us looking at each other and saying, we could do this on our own. And it kind of happened organically. Like you said, we had success, and then we saw the gap for military spouses. And then the situation kind of presented itself for us to make a move. And I had personally always wanted to own a business. When I transitioned, that was always the goal. And we didn't necessarily plan on running one together. And it may not be the best thing for everybody's marriage. My father, the first thing he said when I told him we were starting a business together, he said, most marriages won't survive that. Yeah. And I can absolutely see why. We have grown a lot stronger in our relationship because of it, because we have become true partners in every aspect of our life. But it happened pretty organically, and neither of us fought it. We're executing type people. So we said, we know people that can benefit from this, and let's get started. And we jumped on a computer and Googled, how do you start an LLC? And then started asking a lot of questions, and away we went.
That easy.
It really is. I mean, it's, you can be frozen by fear of the unknown for months and years and try to figure out every little detail, or you can just start executing and figure it out as you go. And I prefer that.
But we also, had amazing mentors. So we looked at people that we knew and respected and were successful, and we went to them. We presented our ideas and got insight every step of the way. We always got insight from people who are at least 2 steps ahead of us in the game. So I do want to say that getting those mentors was a big deal for me personally. While we were doing this from scratch, we also had people who were in the business world for a very long time kind of help be sure we were going on the right paths.
One of the things that a lot of people have to do is secure capital when they get started with their business. So I'm sure you went out and found people that just gave you $1 million.
Oh yeah.
Right. Because other people say, well, I can't start a business. I don't have any money. I can't get a loan or whatever. So I suspect that you probably did not start your business with a loan of $1 million from somebody else, right?
No.
How did you work through that initial startup cost?
Well, we are fortunate because our business does not have a lot of overhead. Everything is remote. So we didn't need a great deal of capital up front, and we've cash flowed the business ever since we started it. We've taken on a little bit of debt, but other than that, no. And I think we could have done it. We could have grown faster than we have with an influx of money. There's no question about it. But the little mistakes that we made would have become bigger mistakes had more zeros been attached to them. And I think because of that, we've grown at a rate that suits us. Obviously, you always want to get to that next goal, but we've learned so much along the way. And part of that is learning our finances.
It sounds like you, Mary Elaine, put in the sweat equity instead of financial dollars, because you were literally your first virtual assistant. So you're not saying, because then you're kind of going out on a limb to a company saying, hey, I'll be your virtual assistant and provide you this service. Hopefully you pay me at the end of it. Whereas had you had capital and maybe started with another person being the virtual assistant, now you're going on a limb saying, I'm going to pay you to be their virtual assistant and hope that they pay me to pay back this, and I can see how you guys kind of, avoided that step by you doing it. And I think it helps you continue to stay invested in the process. So you're not just like telling other people what to do, but it's based on your experience as an actual virtual assistant itself. I think that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Slowly, I let go of my personal clients that I was serving directly and trained essentially the other people to take care of those clients. So
much like us team leader, squad leader.
It didn't happen overnight. It was very scary whenever I did have to do that, and suddenly I didn't have anyone I was serving directly. But that's kind of the process, that we went through.
So how was that? Can you talk about some challenges in regards to when you personally had to start then coaching other virtual assistants to then not like because I think this is important, because these are your personal clients. These are standards you have set. So now you're having to hand these things off with this fear of like, are you going to treat them the same way? How did you talk about some challenges? Talk about that experience, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I think that was probably my biggest test of my own leadership abilities, and kind of letting go of control and trusting that someone else is going to, wake up and say, hey, I'm going to rock it today. Like same attitude that I had. So there was the first thing I realized I had to build was black and white processes for everything that I did. So we're really big on creating SOPs. That's one of the things that we do for our clients to this day, is creating SOPs as soon as they have an assistant start working for them. So building out those processes was the first thing that I did. I knew that I couldn't effectively teach someone how to do it until we had it in black and white. And that started really kind of building our own business manual. That was how we do everything. And I don't even know how many SOPs we have now. We have so many.
A buttload.
Yes, but that was my training ground. what I was doing was having tasks delegated to me. And so now I was teaching someone how to, I was delegating.
Yeah.
And the roles kind of reversed. And so it was really good for me because I got to experience what my clients experience. And then I also got to start letting go of things. So I handed over more and more so I could focus on, the sales aspect of the business.
Good.
So I think did that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
You absolutely did. And you guys are so Ranger. It's not even funny. I mean, it's just, and I bring this up because I think this is a challenge that we face as Rangers, as Ranger spouses, of this ability to let go of things that we have put our name and our investment into. And it has this standard, whether we think that's, it's hard to initially kind of let go and delegate in that realm. It's hard to move from your team to your squad, from your squad to, platoon sergeant and up. You just don't want to get rid of it. And to hear, creating SOPs, creating that black and white, that objectiveness of this is what expect going into it. And it's something I talk about all the time, that we should be helping provide the 75th Ranger Regiment better expectations at the front. When they get there, here's your expectations. You can expect your last year to go like this if you're getting out after, in 4 years. It's not going to be a fun year for you. And I like the hearing about the SOPs you guys create for your team.
Thanks. We're very fortunate. Our leadership team, most of them have been with us since the very beginning. And so they are so good at reinforcing our values, our processes, our procedures, and it's the trickle down effect is really strong with everything that we do. So I don't know if Devis is listening, but Devis is someone on our team that has completely took my black and white SOP outline and turned it into something so much more beautiful and easier to digest. And now there's learning modules and we're doing videos with them. So we've definitely evolved light years, but it was not because of me. It was because of my awesome team.
How long did it take to develop those modules you're talking about?
Where they're still in development. We are constantly evolving them, but I think it was about 1.5 years is when we started those, and we're into year 3 right now, and we're still evolving them. They're always going to be changing.
And it feels like every time you kind of get your foundation laid or you get something established, it feels like 2 seconds later you're going back and having to tweak it. So
Yeah.
These things are constantly evolving, and we have a person specifically designated to keep track and build all of our SOPs. So there is one person that people go to say, hey, make a change here. But at the end of the day, we need the ability for everyone to know what they need to do and what the expectation is without any verbal guidance if necessary.
Yeah. What is a typical, hey, I think this SOP could use a change kind of process look like for somebody on your team? I think this is important in realms of communication. This is, I can see this happening in a lot of SOPs of just thinking, hey, I could do this better, but the command climate isn't there to kind of foster that, hey, I think we could do this better. You guys have a scenario where that you might want to talk about it?
Yeah, it happens all the time. We're always looking for how do we make this more efficient? How do we make our client experience better? How do we save time? So those conversations happen every week. Every week there's some kind of process we're trying to tweak. And we have someone who owns our SOP manual. She is the one who physically makes the changes. No one else can actually change our online manual. But if someone wants to make a change, they make suggestions for the change. Sometimes it requires a meeting with the people who are involved with the process. And we just hashed it out step by step. And then the final person reviews it. And if it doesn't make sense to the person reviewing it, who frankly, she's not involved in almost any of the processes themselves. And that's when you have a good SOP. If you can hand it to a stranger on the street, someone who's not involved whatsoever, and say, hey, can you follow this? Yeah. Then it's effective. So that's kind of the process. Sometimes it's simple updating, but if we need a complete overhaul, then it's a whole meeting dedicated to just that
A
overhaul.
lot of times it's not us re-looking at it, figuring out how to make it better. It's something changes up or downstream of it and it needs to be tweaked, or, you know, something fails and we go back and we see, oh, this didn't work or this wasn't properly documented. So there's a lot of different reasons why that SOP can change. And it's not fun trying to document what you do. It's a terrible job. And Rachel, who does it for us, she kills it, but
She's so
documenting.
I know.
So much. What do you guys like? So in the realms of documenting, what are you guys using primary tool wise to document? You know, I mean, there's so many tools out there. How do you do it?
We've tried different things. Honestly, the one that works the best for us is doing a Google Doc.
Okay.
Because we can have a table of contents on the left-hand side and then just click on the title and it'll jump right to whatever SOP that is that you need.
Yeah.
And for us to work in a cloud and be able to comment without actually making the changes. And we can also track to see who's been in there touching anything. That's great for us.
Tony Main is going to be so happy to hear you say that.
Man, I can see him, like, he's probably like this in his room, in his house like right now. Like, yes, one more technology gone, you know. But that goes great with, because now what you said before is you have a gatekeeper that's controlling all of the edits. So everybody else just gives suggestions and can view, and then it goes through that funnel, you know, of like, okay, that's the person that makes the corrections. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very good one.
I want to get a little away from that part of the business side, unless there's something else you guys want to cover, and we can always go back to it at any time.
I covered everything. No,
I do want to say that I keep looking over here because I have another screen and I'm following the Facebook feed. We posted the YouTube video. It doesn't say what it is because Allie posted it, but I'm pretty sure it's probably your talk at Vet Expo.
Okay.
So anybody that's out there that sees this, go look in the comments for that YouTube video and you'll get to see their presentation. Don't do it right now because we're doing this, but after we're done, then you can go click that. And I also want to give a shout out to Corey Smith, because Corey just joined and he's following along as well. So the originator of Run Ranger Run.
There you go.
So what I was going to ask you after all that was, okay, so you run a business from home, you're married, you got kids. Now you're ordered confined. How are you guys managing all of this stuff without being able to just be like, I'm going shopping for the afternoon, I'll be back? You know, what are you doing now? I don't know if shopping was your stress relieving thing before, but for a lot of people it is. Now that's gone. You know, for me, it's rock climbing. I can't go rock climbing now because the gym is closed. So how are you guys managing through that stuff?
Me personally, I am much more social than he is. So I have a higher social need. So I have made virtual happy hours for our team. We have fun Fridays with our team. And so I step away from family and I just enjoy connecting with my friends and family. I also spend much more time outside than I normally do, which has been great for me mentally. It's just to be outside for hours at a time. Same for our kids. We limit their technology as much as possible and we just kick their butts outside almost all day. In the mornings we do schoolwork and then the rest of the day they gone. So we're fortunate we don't have little babies and toddlers that we can kick outside by themselves and they can independently play. But yeah, tell them all about your stress relievers.
I'm perfectly fine confined. I don't have much of a social need. I prefer to spend my time at home. I'm a big piddler. If you own a home, there's always something to be done around. So I've done quite a bit of yard work and little projects around the house. And we stay generally separated most of the day. You know, obviously there's run-ins, but she's working where she's working and I'm working where I am. And I spend all my time outside unless the boss tells me I got something to do for work. So I'm totally good.
Yeah.
If this was winter, we got lucky too, because the weather here's been gorgeous
Yeah,
for
it
3
has.
weeks now. It's been incredible. So
Mm.
this is about the time of year where I'd be out trying to get the yard and landscaping done anyway. So
Mhm.
I'm fine with being confined.
Yeah, and maybe it's just me. I feel like because you guys work from home, I already work from home. Karl works from home. There's tons of people that already work from home. Our routine was in to out. Like we worked here, but then we left the house to go do things. A lot of people come back to their home
Right.
after working, and I think that's a big disconnect for people that way. But it's also for us that rely on leaving the house and going and doing extracurricular things. That now we are, it's kind of, you're both stuck in that realm. And it's just interesting how it's going to all play out as we continue to grow up in the weeks.
And the whole kids not being at school thing's kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
Oh man, it'd be like a utopia if we were off work and they were in school. Like, are we at Disneyland or something? What?
Yeah.
So have you set like, these are my work hours? Like you'd have a regular work day?
Yeah, so I really thrive off of block scheduling my day, and you don't need it as much as I do. I have to have enforced structure in place. I mean, I have the kids on a strict routine. I have myself on a strict routine. I set office hours where my team knows that they can call and reach me and schedule meetings. So as soon as all of this started happening, yes, I'm already working from home, but my kids being home really threw a wrench in my productivity and my availability. So I had to readjust my schedule completely based on that and really minimize the amount of hours I spend on my computer. So at first I was trying to work while they were doing school stuff, and that didn't work. Now I give them all my focus and attention for certain hours, and then they know, okay, for this time of day, I cannot bother my mom. I have, she's working. So,
and a piece of advice I would give to people out there working remotely. I watched Mary Elaine, I guess over the course of 3 years now, working from home strictly all the time. And it's very easy to never be able to turn it off because it works right there on your phone. You can jump in your email, and that's always, I've never had a big issue of turning it off because I grew up in the military, and when you go home, it's done. I can't even check my email if I wanted to. I don't have the right computer here. So figuring out a time, hey, I'm going to turn it off every day. I'm not going to go jump back in that inbox and try to do one more thing. Actually turning it off and getting that kind of routine back, like you said, Karl, if not for your own sanity, for your children and for people around you, so that they're not constantly seeing you on your phone, in your computer, because there's always something else to do.
Yeah.
There always will be.
Yeah. And I think, it even goes to Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. One of his big principles is having a zero balance. Like, what are you guys laughing at?
We drank that day.
Oh yeah. So one of his principles is zero balance, right? Monthly zero balance. Like, you always have it at the beginning. And like, why don't we think of this in the realms of time? And I want to go back to something that you had said about where you disconnect from your family, you disconnect from family to spend with your friends through your virtual meetings. And now it sounds like that's part of your block scheduling that you guys have decided. You're like, hey, Brett, I'm going to take this time to do my virtual things, and I'm going to take these times to be with the family. I think people miss out on treating their time the same as their money. If they can use the same type of philosophy of having a zero balance in time, where they say, for this 30 minutes, I'm going to sit on the toilet and I'm going to look in Facebook. And when this 30 minutes is up, I'm going to put my phone in the charging station. And then I'm going to do 30 minutes of kid, time where I'm not looking at the phone. I'm not looking at the keyboard. I've got the timer going, and like you said, full into your kids, because what we try to do is we try to grab onto multiple things and we give everything a quarter of our attention. And then it just drives us insane because we're just not giving it our best. So being able to block those and do it routinely, spouse time, like devotional time, work time. I need to get better at it. Like, I know that my schedule could be even more blocked off And it's great to hear other couples, other people using the same mindset of intentionally scheduling that family and non-family time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you basically in your mind, if you have your priorities in line, then your schedule should reflect your life priorities. If it's God, physical fitness, mental health, all of that. Well, my calendar shows what's important to me.
Yeah.
So
Just like money, unspoken money is money that just gets spent. Unspoken time is the same way. Think about how many times you do unspoken things and you're like, man, where did that 30 minutes go? Where we have all the technology in the world to help us stay on track that way.
Yeah.
You talked a minute ago about the financial management side.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys both come at it from the same perspective? Did you have different ways that you managed your money, budget? How did you, if you don't mind, I mean, this could be a sensitive topic.
This is a topic that we feel pretty passionately
Yeah.
about, especially because we kind of got ourselves more together the past 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So for the majority of our relationship, we were unable to have healthy conversations about money. And it came down to one simple thing. We were never on the same page exactly. And so you're talking about, we're going to go back to what you're talking about, a budget. If couples come together and create a budget, I don't mean a loose budget where things kind of go here. Dave Ramsey style, every dollar has an assignment. At the beginning of the month, you tell your money where to go, and you have that conversation between the two of you. If you can do that every month, it will change your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It will change your marriage. And until we got to that point, not kind of half-assing it with a loose budget, once we sat down and gave every dollar an assignment, from there, we could actually create real tangible financial goals and look at real timelines to hit those goals. Once we did that and we really came together on it, it strengthened our relationship in a way that had never been, and we could actually communicate about money now.
Yeah.
And
awesome. I think our business, creating a business together, really, really forced us. We didn't have a choice. At that point, we had to get our crap together. If we couldn't get our personal financials in order, how are we going to make a business thrive? So we both kind of realized that, and we educated ourselves. We read, Dave Ramsey's book. We both got on the same page with having common vernacular, understanding, what are our common goals together, and from there, created our budget. Well, how are we going to get to those financial goals? But it took investment, 100% investment from both of us for it to be effective. And now it's never a source of tension.
It's so freeing.
It's so freeing, and we're being proactive versus reactive. And I think most married couples at some point have, gotten to the middle of the month or the end of the month saying, well, where did all that money go? Mm-hmm. And then you play the blame game, and it's not productive. But if you have that game plan in place before that money even hits the account, then both of you are prepared. And if you have those terms and agreements, then you just hold each other accountable and try your, I think for us too, it was avoiding pointing fingers and blaming. And it didn't come easily the first few months when we were doing it, because everything was changed and different. So we had to give each other grace, but at the same time, remind each other of, okay, let's look at back what we implemented. Let's look at back what we have in place. Where do we go wrong? Let's fix it.
You talked a minute ago about identifying your goals and then setting up your budget. It seems to me that a lot of people go, well, this month I'm going to have X number of dollars. So my cable is this, my rent is this, my gas is this, my insurance is this. That means I have this much money left to go party or buy a new whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that seems like that's the way most people go about their budgeting, but you did that a little differently.
Well, so one thing in my experience in the military, the spouse of the service member is usually responsible for money. because I'm gone, I'm deployed, I don't have access. There's always going to be one person who's doing most of the legwork. But a lot of people, us included, one person was, you pay the bills and I don't want to worry about it. And you're just so disconnected. So if you are not coming together, or if you have money coming into a bank account that your wife doesn't have access to, these are red flags that you are not financially in sync. As far as making the financial goals, first of all, if you don't know where your money's going, your financial goals mean nothing. And if you have not done a to the dollar budget, money will slowly seep through the cracks and you'll never know where it went. So the first thing you have to do identify is, how much do we actually need to live in a month? Once we know how much we need to live and we have an amount that we make, from there we can start kind of figuring out what our financial goals are. And that's as simple as, what do we do with the money that's not being spent specifically to support us living? And then everything else gets divvied up to where you want it to go. Us personally, because we do follow Dave Ramsey, we're in debt payoff mode. We're in baby step 2.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are.
Yeah. But Karl, one thing that we did do that I think you're asking about is creating the goals and then creating the budget. What I was referring to is just kind of big picture. You know, where do we see ourselves in 10 years? Where do we see ourselves in 5 years? You know, and dream big, and really let those big, you know, what do they call it? Hairy, audacious goals fly, and let it fly loose. And it's a really fun activity to do, exercise to do with your spouse.
Yeah.
And then you can take those big picture things and come up with, okay, how are we going to get there? And it all starts with how we're managing our money today. And
and I think that's that's what you said it right, because those huge, hairy, audacious goals in the future really help identify, you know, where we need to start today. Because your big outlandish goal might be a European vacation, but you need to be debt free. You know, you need to get to step 1, 2, and 3 of debt consolidation and these things before you can even start getting there. And you know, I think what you guys just described in regards to establishing your goals and visualizing where you want to be. I mean, you just described functional emotional fitness training for us, and what better to do it than your wealth, being able to visualize with your spouse. You know, can we visualize ourselves on that cruise? Well, I can't, because I hate cruises, but a lot of people don't. You know, that's what people look for. They look for that vacation. You know, those are the things that are really exciting to them. Like, and that's where, like, the goal is 2-part. Like, if we have $10, we're going to put 8 in the debt payoff realm. But we're going to put $2 in the cruise fund. You know, that $2 wipes out that $8 that they had to give for those bad decisions later, you know, from the past. And having your partner, it's great to just be able to continually visualize that.
I just want to throw out like reasons and terms. In the way I look at it, if you have a goal and you don't have an action plan set up to attain that goal, that's a dream. That's not a goal. Mm-hmm. Saying my goal is to do this and you don't know how you're going to get there, that's a dream. A dream won't be attained without an action plan. It doesn't become a goal. So the budget is so incredibly important. It sounds so simplified, like, oh, I just need to start a budget and it's going to help my relationship with my wife. I promise you that it will. And it's going to give you the foundation to create that action plan. It's not abstract. We want to go on vacation in a couple of years. No, I can save this much money each month if I don't start pissing it away on other things. So every month we're going to save that. And with our, you know, basic 4th grade math, we can figure out, hey, in 18 months, we'll be ready to go on that cruise. That's a goal with an action plan, not I'm going to try to attain that someday.
Yeah.
That people don't win that way.
And Bryce, you mentioned paying off debt and, you know, putting money to pay off debt and just going, oh, you know, we really had to change our mindset on that. We had to change it to anytime we paid off a chunk of debt, where we celebrated.
Absolutely.
I mean, bring home a bottle of champagne. We made a big deal. We high-fived each other, and it sounds cheesy and ridiculous, but it helps. So it just makes you feel like, yes, I am one step closer and one step closer. And when you celebrate together, it makes it just that much more exciting. And you are a team. You should be celebrating together. it's a mutual accomplishment.
And this
Yeah,
is such a, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Brett.
This is such a great time for this topic because when things are going right, people are spending money and they got car payments and they got consumer debt, and that stuff doesn't scare them. But as soon as things go poorly, people realize that those debts can literally ruin their life. Cash becomes king. And it's in these tough times where I would encourage you, hey, you're financially strained right now. This is the time to clean it up.
Yeah.
Because imagine how much better you feel if you had, say, 6 months emergency fund in place where you know if you didn't get paid for 6 months, your family is going to be fine.
Yep.
But you also can't get to that point unless you know how much money that you need to survive off of a month, which goes back to our budget.
And it also goes back to control. I think a lot of people right now have a lot of fear and feel a lack of control right now.
Mm-hmm.
This is something you can do today to help you feel like you're more in that driver's seat of your life whenever everything else seems out of your control.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right. And also realizing too, because unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that have been holding on to the end of this rope for so long. And this coronavirus thing was just the final, like, you know, and then they're like, bankruptcy or repo, like it's a very unfortunate scenario, but maybe that's the like final grip that they've let go that's going to help them over time realize of what they were holding on to, you know.
I had a conversation with a veteran out on the West Coast a couple of days ago that was related right to that, Bryce, because that veteran, they said, but I might have to go bankrupt. Okay. Happens all the time. There's a legal process for it. People get their life in place. They emerge from it. They come out stronger financially down the road. Is it fun? No. Is it, you know, you're gonna have to do things you don't like? Yes. But it's not like now I have to kill myself because I'm going to go bankrupt. Right. And that's what people get so wrapped up in. This problem is so huge, and it's made worse right now because people didn't plan ahead. And now all of a sudden you're not working for 2 months and the government's going to mail you a check sometime.
Maybe.
And even that check's not going to be enough to pay your bills. So it's not the end of the world, right? It's really not the zombie apocalypse. So we're all going to come out of it, but some people are going to have to learn some good lessons and then do things so it doesn't happen to them again.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good crisis to enforce change in people. So
Ain't that the truth? That's the truth. It's funny, Marilyn, you were talking about, you know, celebrating the journey along the way of even painful things. I don't think we can really comprehend that thing. I think you guys can equate to, you know, think about like road marches or like physical events that we're like, yeah, we should go do this. And like halfway through it, we're like, why did we do this? You know, and we're complaining the whole way. I mean, it's the same with rock climbing. Half the time I'm complaining halfway up, like, oh, what's going on? And then I get to the top and it's like, yes, you know, it's the same thing. With the grumbles about debt, the sting of it, you know, we go back to pain being such a great teacher. You know, like you guys choosing to celebrate while also remembering, hey, we're never going to be here again. Yeah. We're going to avoid this at all possible costs to be here because we know how it felt to be down there. And that's very helpful. So, you know, Brett, I want to ask you, if you had a room full of brand new RAFS graduates and you had 30 minutes to talk to them about finances, what would it be? You know, what would that room, what would you say to them to help kind of start their career off right financially? Because I think this is my biggest topic. You know, if I had 30 minutes with brand new privates, this is where I would target them. What to do?
The number one thing I would hit on is a budget, because a budget is the key to all of your financial success or failures. And the second thing that I would show them is I would show them the power of compounding interest.
Yes.
Show them the fact that, hey, you're 18 years old and you can put this very small amount of money away and you can be worth millions of dollars by the time you're 65 by just putting that small amount of money away. And budget, you know, these kids, they come out and they get their first paycheck and they go lease or buy a $60,000 car that they drive 100 feet to the chow hall and maybe a mile down the road after that. And they are financially screwed for so many years. And, but that's what we've grown up believing. It's everyone's going to have student loans. Yeah. Everyone has a car payment. That's just a normal part of life. And that's not true. It's
Not at
been
all.
pushed upon us because people get rich from it.
Let's talk about when we dated. We like dated like we were like millionaires.
Oh, I mean, I mean, and that's the thing. You come back from a deployment, right? You got
Yeah.
money in your pocket, and
Oh my god.
after the first deployment, when we were together, I got back. I had a signing bonus as well, and we were eating at the best restaurants in town, and we were just burning it down. And
It was great.
and we could. Here's the thing. We could have done that if I had just taken 10% of what I
Yeah.
spent on nothing and put it into a Roth IRA or just simply somewhere else in some sort of mutual fund or investment. I would have been so much better off. And I will say, my father, when I joined the Army, he sat down with me, talked me into saving a certain amount of money each month as a private. And I look back, and it was such a high percentage from what my income was. And that money ended up helping us buy our first home. It helped buy her engagement ring. So I owe my father a lot for that. And I wish I had the discipline I needed to continue that throughout my whole career, but I didn't. And the third thing I would say is every time you get promoted, you take the extra money, and you make it disappear so you never see it. And another thing that I never
account. Yep. Yeah.
just live like you're whatever rank forever. Her father reinforced that for me, and he's one of the few people I think that actually have the discipline to do it. So
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can set. I mean, I think the moon and the sun are set off of the military pay schedule. I mean, like it first and the 15th, without fail. It is so set, and you can do the math yourself. I mean, I did E1 to E4, 4 years in the military, 10% of their income, no interest, is like right over 12 grand. You know, and that's a decent amount of money to come out of the military with after 4 years.
Yeah.
You know, that's a great head start. So no, that's great to hear those suggestions. Everybody listening out there, budget. If you don't have one, get one. If you don't know where to get one, get with us. We'll help you find one. Dave Ramsey, if you haven't looked him up, get out.
Well, we got a post here that says that Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover is currently discounted to $1.99.
$1.99, and Financial Peace University is free for 14 days and everything within it.
Wow. Yeah, and Total Money Makeover is a really easy book to get through. I mean, I think I went through that book in like 3 days listening to it. So highly recommended as well. It's funny, you know, that we're talking about with what you guys have started with Patriot Advantage. A book that really changed my life a long time ago was Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. And a big part of his book is talking about automating things. So the first place I ever heard of this was the organization or company he was using, Your Man in India. So everything was being, you know, outsourced over to India. So, but it's great that you guys have Americanized the idea and are using it to hire spouses. So it's kind of cool that this is coming around and becoming an industry to work in now that we've got a big.
What do you guys do for relationship maintenance? Because, you know, I've known you now for maybe about a year, right? We got connected before Vet Expo last year. And now I'm happy to say I'm a very happy client. Liz is awesome. Sarah filling in for her when Liz had the baby was awesome. I've got the postcard with the baby picture on it. Maybe I'll go get it in a minute and show it. But set the business aside, like business is in your house all the time because you guys co-own the business and it's out of your house.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you have an intentional plan that you work on relationship maintenance? And with kids, that's really, really tough.
Yeah. We date each other all the time. I mean, we have amazing babysitters, family who help with the kids. We personally believe in our life, it's God, marriage, and then our kids. So we put each other first before our kids. We do. If we're not good, if we're not in sync, then our kids will feel it, they'll sense it, and we won't be as effective as a parenting team. So we date each other regularly. We have
counseling?
We have counselors that we see. So
do you do that together or individually?
we haven't done it together in a long time. We do it individually. I have my own, he has his own. And
private, or is it something you've gone through the vet center, VA?
they're private.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. And what else? I mean,
And a natural occurrence that helps our relationship is we don't hold back.
yeah.
There's no holding in feelings and emotions for days on end and letting them fester. It pretty much comes right out, and which means that we have it out. We say nasty things to each other and catch attitude, but because we don't hold that stuff in, we're able to kind of float through those emotions, and I think that helps us a lot. But the big thing is just being intentional about making time for your spouse. Like she said, she has a higher social need, so she needs more of my time than I need of her time, and just being aware of that, and also having the ability to bring it up, like, hey, we need to spend some time, or hey, we're not seeing eye to eye on that. The ability just to broach that subject without triggering your spouse could be
You
big.
mean the other person, what makes them happy isn't the same exact thing that makes you happy?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Fun.
Just not.
I would encourage you spouses to go out there and figure out what you and your spouse's love language is, to see if you are communicating correctly for them to
Feel loved.
feel love.
What is yours, Brett?
So I
Give.
show my love by doing things for people. So if I'm mad at her, I may go like clean her car or something, something like that. That would be something that I do to show my love. But you don't even realize that I didn't know that about myself till I read it, and then I was like, okay, well, I can see where maybe she doesn't always understand that I'm showing love right now,
Yeah.
So.
But he's also the chef of the family, and he does almost every meal here. So I know every time that plate hits the table, that is love.
True, it is
That
love.
is pure love.
So Brett, I want to ask you, what love language do you receive? What do you want?
Same.
I want the same thing.
Yeah.
You want gifts of service?
Acts of
But I
service.
don't.
Kids, cover your ears. No.
And that's the thing for me. I look for that in return because that naturally comes out of me, and I didn't get it. And for a while, it's like I did, in my head, it's like I did all this stuff for you, and then you didn't do crap for me. All you did was say some nice things to me. But
So words of affirmation are not you would say that's not your, okay.
Words of affirmation are not required for me.
Mhm.
Got it. What's yours?
The Raider Project just did a marriage retreat last month, right before we all ended up getting locked in. And the reason why last week I checked my temperature every day is because 2 weeks before I was traveling. But one of the things that we talked about was exactly that. And they made videos of all of this. And I hope over the next summer, our plan is to be able to take those and turn it into a marriage retreat kit or toolbox. So other groups can come together in other towns, watch the videos and have discussions. But that's a big part of it, because if you expect your partner to reward you the way you reward them, but that's not the way they enjoy being rewarded, there's a total disconnect.
Yes.
And until you realize that, then there's always going to be conflict, and they're busting their ass thinking that they're pleasing you, and they're doing exactly the opposite. And you're getting very frustrated. So understanding that's huge.
Mary Elaine, what's yours, if you don't mind me asking? What do you give?
Well, quality time.
Okay. Is that what you need? Is that?
That's what I need. That's
Okay.
how I feel the most loved, is quality time. And even like watching TV together, that doesn't count. And that was actually a conversation we had. He's like, we're together every night. I'm like, watching TV, we're not connecting. That's not quality time to me. So yeah, quality time is my number one.
And that's a good one to go back to your question earlier, Karl, about working on the relationship. We do try to be very intentional about having time just to talk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think a lot of couples tend to be ships in the night. And I know we deployed all the time. We talked about a lot
Bryce
of things.
just hit an iceberg.
Just balancing on my board. Sorry.
But when he was deploying a lot and gone for training and stuff, our conversations normally weren't that deep. They were very kind of surface.
Very probing. How are you? How was your day? Fine.
It's very surface level, because neither of us really wanted to rock the boat. We didn't want to go there because I didn't know when was the next time I was going to get a phone call.
Sure.
And so, that survival and then in that season of our life. But years later, we realized those aren't, that didn't really build good habits for us with communicating. And we actually, in that YouTube video, we took a deep dive into our communication and how we got there and how we got to where we are now. But yeah, just we hash everything out, and quality time is.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head is knowing each other's love languages. I've finally come to realize my wife's is quality time, and I was on the same path. Like, but we watch TV together. We're doing this, and that's not it. If my phone is in the room or in the house, that's not quality time for her. Like, my phone has to be in a locked case, like in my office away. And then that's like, okay, now we are QT time right now.
Yep. Cool.
That is for sure. Well, Karl, we're about at an hour.
Yeah, well, I need to apologize to Brett. I'm going to go fix his name since I only spelled it with one T.
It's okay.
But I'll get that fixed in the title of the video. So my bad. I'll do push-ups.
I'm sure that's the worst.
No, I appreciate you guys being on. Appreciate everything you do. Before we close off, how do people find you? Your social media, your website?
You take this, I'm dying.
You want me to take word? I don't even have social media
Oh gosh. Okay.
on the internet.
PatriotAdvantage.com.
The Patriot.
The
The
Patriot.
Patriot. That's right.
And Facebook, The Patriot Advantage. Sorry, I am dying right now. Just choked. But yeah, that's where you can find us. My email is me@thepatriotadvantage.com. So if you have any questions, thank you.
Go check out their talk.
Gifts of service working so well.
Go check out their Vet Expo talk, the YouTube link, plus all the other Vet Expo speakers. It was great having you guys out here, and I enjoy our partnership with Patriot Advantage.
Thank you so much.
You guys do
Karl
great
and
work.
Bryce.
They certainly do. Certainly do. Small businesses of all sizes, check out the Patriot Advantage. They have solutions to meet your needs for virtual assistants. They're top notch, hands down, for sure. Love all of the people that work with. So,
All right, you guys stay healthy.
thank you guys.
Thank you.